Mark chapter 9. You know, yesterday there was so much to say, those last few verses of Mark 8. I almost considered going back and reviewing. But chapter 9 starts with, he said to them, "Surely I say to you that there are some standing here who will not see taste death until they see the kingdom of God present with power." Now that's fascinating because, let's see here. Luke 9, Matthew, Mark, Luke 27. See, it's funny that, 27, it's right there. What verse is it then? 27? Matthew 16. Let's try Matthew 16. I know there's a cross-reference here. Oh, yeah. So it's Matthew 16 where it actually puts it as the last verse of chapter 16. And yet chapter 17 starts the Mount of Transfiguration. And so things like that. My Bible actually also had a reference in Mark. Where'd it go? Mark 9. To Matthew 24:30. That makes me kind of curious what that is. See, we can do a Bible study together here. Anyway, so seeing him in glory. Now, so let's taste death till they see the kingdom of God present with power. Now, after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up on high mountain apart from themselves, and he was transfigured before them. And his clothes became shining exceedingly white like snow, such as no launderer on earth can whiten them. Obviously, you've never seen my wife's laundry. She's a pro. But, and Elijah appeared to them with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Then Peter answered and said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here, and let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Because he did not know what to say. Love that in there. And a cloud came and overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, "This is my beloved Son, hear him." And suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one anymore, but only Jesus with themselves. Man, we're just taking on a lot. I feel like there's way too much to talk about. All right. Let's see here. So they go, and they head up on a high mountain. Many think it's Mount Hermon. If you go to the Promised Land, they've got a Mount of Transfiguration. It's the wrong one. Mount Hermon is a very high mountain, and it's near Caesarea Philippi, which is where we were just at in chapter 8. Close proximity, high mountain, who knows? But there they see him transfigured. So it's like he's in his glorified state, the state he'd be in after the resurrection. And there he sees Elijah and Moses, which you could think of as like the law and the prophets. Moses for the law and Elijah for the prophets. And he's talking with them. And so Peter then opens his mouth because he did not know what to say. And we know people who are like that, where they just talk when they don't know what to say. They just kind of ramble. Now, in Luke chapter 9, verse 32, it actually tells us that they had fallen asleep, right? And so he falls asleep, he wakes up, here they see this, and well, we don't know what to, we should build some tabernacles, that'd be great. And then they hear God speaking from heaven, "This is my beloved Son, hear him." And when they had looked around, they saw no one anymore, but only Jesus with themselves. And you know, there's an experience here going up on the mountain, meeting with Jesus, and then everyone else leaves and there's only Jesus. And I don't know. This would have been a unique experience. This would have been a wonderful experience. Okay, let's just keep going down. It says, they came down from the mountain, and he commanded them they should tell no one of the things they had seen, till the Son of Man is risen from the dead. So they kept this word to themselves, questioning what the rising from the dead meant. And they asked him, saying, why do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? Then he answered and told them, indeed, Elijah is coming first and restores all things. And how is it written concerning the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things and be treated with contempt? But I say to you that Elijah has also come, and they did to him whatever they wished, as it is written of him. So it's interesting because Jesus now speaks of Elijah as having come, but that Elijah also will come. And so this points to John the Baptist coming in the spirit and the power of Elijah. And then most agree it seems like it's pointing forward to another coming of Elijah before the second coming of the Lord. And many scholars, and I might not be a scholar, but at least I'm part of the many, would think that Revelation chapter 11, speaking of these two witnesses, two people who have all these powers and they're preaching righteousness, and they're struck down, then resurrected, and they ascend into heaven, that one of those two in Revelation chapter 11 would be Elijah. Jesus says that he is still coming first. And so I think this is the idea, is that we have the Jews were always looking forward to their Messiah coming and setting up the kingdom. Well, Jesus came, but not to set up the earthly kingdom. But he will come again and set up an earthly kingdom. And they looked for Elijah to come first. And in John the Baptist, he did come first in the spirit and power of Elijah. But that then he will come again, literally, physically, before the coming of Jesus and the setting up of that kingdom. So this is just where we see these near and far fulfillments of prophecies. Partial fulfillments followed by total fulfillments. We see these in other places. In the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet in Daniel chapter 9 and 11 and whatnot, it's, that this Antichrist will come and stop sacrifices and set up, pagan, an idolatrous worship in the temple. And all the Jews thought that this was Antiochus Epiphanes. And it was, in a sense. But Jesus still spoke of it as a future event. That was 150 years before Christ, give or take. This is way in the future. So we see prophecies like this with these fulfillments in part and then a later fulfillment in full. And so we got to be watching for this stuff. We got to be watching for what it speaks of. And I will just throw out here that John the Baptist was a physical, real person. And Jesus speaks of Elijah coming again as a literal, physical, real person. And I've seen people try and, interpret the two witnesses as symbolic this and symbolic that. And it's like, well, Jesus seems to say here, indeed, Elijah is coming first and restores all things. So again, it's like Jesus speaks of it literally. So I'm going to take it literally. Jesus speaks of the abomination of desolation in Matthew 24 and elsewhere literally. So I'm going to take it literally. That's kind of the idea. Jesus seemed to take the Bible literally, and so I try and take it literally. He understood that there could be partial early fulfillments followed by complete fulfillments later, and so I understand that too. So, all this said, kind of just more of a technical talk this morning, but some important stuff. I've just taken the Bible literally and believing that these things are still coming. All right. God bless you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on Monday.